Okay, it's 6:30, and I will call the, there we go. The work session to order Thursday, November 13th at 6:30. We'll begin with citizen comments. For those who wish to call in, the local number is 907-486-3231. Toll-free number is 1-855-492-9202. And please turn off your radio or any other listening device to prevent feedback. For those in the room who wish to speak under citizen comments, please come to the podium and sign in. Turn on the microphone, make sure the green light is on before speaking, and speak directly into the mic. And state your name for the record. Address all remarks to the assembly as a body and not to any member thereof. So anybody wishing to make a comment, you can come on down.
Shemai, my name's Janine. I go by JJ Marsh. I'm here representing Kodiak Tribe. I'm here because the discussion about North Star School is on the agenda this evening, and I'm just here to answer any questions, should you have any more, other than the presentation that was provided during our last session. I realize there's new assembly members, but in case you have any questions regarding the presentation.
All right. Thank you, JJ.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have any calls, Nova? All right, let's move on. First agenda item is a Discover Kodiak presentation. Amy, do you want to start us off?
I'd just like to introduce Sabrina Hicks. Sabrina is the new executive director from Discover Kodiak, and as part of their contract with KIB, they are giving us quarterly updates on what's happening at Discover Kodiak. Welcome, Sabrina.
Good evening, assembly members and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to share Discover Kodiak's first quarter update. We truly appreciate the borough's continued partnership as we work to promote the island, welcome visitors, and support the businesses and organizations that contribute to the local economy. The first quarter highlights our core mission, which is promoting Kodiak as a destination, welcoming visitors to communities across the island, and supporting local businesses and organizations that make this region unique. Our work this quarter centered on 4 main areas: marketing and promotion, visitor services, community partnerships and events, and organizational operations. We continue to broaden our outreach within Alaska and in key off-island markets. Visitor guides were distributed to Ketchikan, Fairbanks, Valdez, Haines, Copper Valley, and Bellingham, and many other centers have already requested additional shipments. We now operate on a year-round replenishment system to ensure Kodiak, as our region, remains well represented wherever travelers are gathering information. For example, we are starting the production of our 2026 Visitors Guide, but we just received an email from Fairbanks saying that they don't want to wait for that. They want more guides now. Little things like that make us realize that Alaskans are they're touring the state themselves. This year we received quite a few people who were from other parts of the state that had come to Kodiak for the very first time and wondered why they had waited so long. So a few of those people, we always ask how they heard about Kodiak, and it's usually from a visitor center. One was from the airport. Our visitor center welcomed 12,466 guests this first quarter. While the center is located in the city of Kodiak, the information we provide represents the entire island, and the questions we receive often include transportation and access outside of the town, lodging and recreation options across the road system and within remote villages, fishing, wildlife viewing, and guided activities available throughout the borough or businesses that operate throughout. We make a point to engage with each visitor personally, asking what brought them here, what they hope to experience, or how we can help match their interests with the right activities or locations. These conversations allow us to better understand the traveler's expectations and to guide them towards experiences that benefit businesses island-wide. A major highlight this quarter was our Adjust Your Altitude hiking challenge, which attracted more than 750 participants. Many of these individuals and families explored trails throughout the island, and several went on to book additional experiences during their stay. We are also in the early stages of developing a community mural project that aims to showcase Kodiak's story through art. The effort will be a collaborative and inclusive of all perspectives from across the island, ensuring that the heritage, cultures, and identities of the entire island are represented. For cruise visitors and independent travelers, while cruise ship activity is primarily in the immediate city area, the economic impact reaches well beyond downtown. Many of the passengers book island-wide excursions, fishing charters, tours, and wildlife viewing opportunities that take place throughout the island. Equally important are the independent travelers who visit during every season. These guests typically stay 3 to 5 days, rent vehicles, explore communities beyond the city limits, and participate in experiences across the borough. Their extended stays create a substantial and steady contribution to the island's overall economy. This quarter, we placed a strong emphasis on listening, both to visitors and to the businesses throughout the island. Several concerns were brought to us, and before sharing them in detail, which I will plan on coming next month, I plan to meet privately with leadership from both the city and the borough to ensure that we are conveying them constructively and through the appropriate channels. Our goal is to provide thoughtful representation and to support solutions that strengthen partnerships across the island. Our goals for next quarter are finalizing a pocket-sized walking map illustrated by local artist Natasha Zahn, which will be distributed widely across the island. We will also be sending our 2026 visitor guides to print in January. And we will be hosting the Chocolate Lovers Fling on Friday, February the 13th. And this year it will be benefiting Island Trails Network and supporting their recreation and trail work across the island. In closing, I'd like to thank you again for your support and your partnership. Tourism in Kodiak is an island-wide effort, and every community area within the borough plays a meaningful role in that visitor experience. We are honored to help tell the story of Kodiak Island and to work collaboratively with the borough to strengthen our shared economy and sense of place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sabrina, and congratulations on your new role with the organization. I'm hearing very good things.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sabrina? Bo.
Yeah, I was just curious how membership's looking.
It's I think it's looking great. We have some new members. We also have some members who, even this past week, for example, who have not decided to not renew their membership. That's one thing we are working with in our office. We do see the value of a membership with Discover Kodiak. We see it every day when we're recommending these businesses and the people in the lodges. They're all important and they're all very different. Many of our members are very small businesses and some are very large. So it is something that we would invite the community's feedback to. It is also something that we are looking to create more surveys to see what they think we should do better, what they think we can improve on, what they would like to see from us. We are here to support them, and we want to make sure that we're doing that in a way that they feel the benefit.
Anyone else? Sure. Go for it, Bo.
I'm just curious too. I guess what sectors of tourism do you think are growing the fastest in popularity? I understand there's kind of ebb and flow with fishing and hunting depending on availability, but what would you say is the most increased interest for folks coming here?
Ecotourism and cultural tourism is something that we are seeing an increase in. People want to travel to, especially a place like Kodiak. It's remote, it's beautiful, the landscape, the scenery, the wildlife is always going to be number one. And we are seeing more people come into our office and say, where can we go see, where it's always going to be, where can we see puffins? Where can we see the bears? Where can we see something that shows the culture of tourism of Kodiak, of the native population? They want to know how they can go and connect with these villages. sometimes it's not accessible to them like they think. They think that they can come here into the city of Kodiak, fly in, and how can I get to Old Harbor, or how can I get to Larson Bay? Like, well, here is how you can, this is how you would want to do it if you, and they're sometimes disappointed, like they think that it's a 15-minute car ride. But being that we hear that, it is something that we know we need to portray a lot more on our social media or on our website, letting them know that there are these beautiful remote destinations and lodges. Here's how you would plan your trip to go see them and experience them.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I just have one question, or just one thing I'm interested in, and you probably don't know the answer to it yet, but I'm just really curious about how the ferry interruptions are impacting tourism. And I don't think that we have any metrics, for that yet, but that's just one thing I'm curious about, like in the future.
Yeah, and that is something that we do see when the ferry is interrupted. For example, it sometimes can be, to a certain degree, a slight benefit, because there are people who find themselves here for a few more days in Kodiak, and they tend to be pretty happy at the end. They're like, wow, we were able to go to this restaurant and here, and they'll come into our office and tell us, unfortunately, we were supposed to be on that ferry, but we're here for 2 extra days. What can we do? And it's exciting for me to hear someone stay a few extra days, because a lot of times people will come into Kodiak and they'll go to these remote lodges, but they're here for only a few hours and then they fly. And what can I do for 1 hour or 2 hours? We're just waiting for the boat, or we're just waiting for the flight to be ready. And when we can tell them how much there is to do within our area of the city and the borough, they're always happy. So that's something we would like to see a little bit more of, is come to Kodiak, but come 1 or 2 days before.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, next up is the discussion of the Service Area Number 1 rental agreement for the property at 3523 East Rezanoff Drive. Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Service Area 1 Board of Directors voted to approve the lease of 3523 East Rezanoff Drive for road service area storage purposes. The service area uses this property to store gravel, calcium chloride, and salt that will be accessed by their contractor. This location has been in use for over 5 years, and Service Area Number 1 residents haven't paid any kind of fees for use of the property. This is a year-to-year contract, so it's below my spending authority, but I brought it to the assembly and I wanted to have this discussion with you because the only other piece of land that we lease is for a tsunami siren out in Pasagshak. We're the landowners, and I'm used to people paying us and not us paying people the other way around. And so there's been a lot of conversation. You'll see a really long timeline. The last page in your packet, just the letter from Mr. Fields is what we originally got. I said that wouldn't work. We needed a lease, and then we got a lease, but then the math in the lease was wrong, and he was at a SetNet site, so we waited for him to come back. And then he gave us this copy of the lease, and it's over $68,000 over the 5 years. But the way it's written, it's still under my limit. But it's something that's out of the ordinary, and I don't know, women's intuition or whatever. It just felt like a policy decision instead of a manager decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And did everybody get this one with? I also have a small spreadsheet here of lots that that could be alternatives to the lease right here. There are 3 lots. I can pass this down if you all want to look at it, but we can start off the discussion. All right, Dave?
Thank you. Could you estimate about how many square footage are needed for storage of those materials?
I can, and this is because Assemblymember Johnson asked in advance. Otherwise, I would have had no idea. So thank you for that. I talked to the Service Area 1 chair, and he thought they would need at least 20,000 square feet.
20,000.
Yes, so it's about half an acre.
So that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're talking about salt, bags, super sacks of salt, right?
Have you seen that lot? Their pile of gravel is extensive.
Right, but is that a requirement?
It's not a requirement. Service Area 1 chose to do this because it shortened the distance that their contractors would have to drive, so they could get to the service area faster.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of problems with this as a concept. It's not a requirement. It wasn't in the contract. Now we're potentially giving a landowner $70,000 when we've got a lot of borough property, as the mayor has said. I don't believe I fall under Service District 1, but if I did, I would be really upset. But as a assembly member who, I think it's our duty to look out for the best interests of the community, and I don't see this being a good use of their resources. I think this is further complicated by an ongoing issue we've had in the assembly, and it's why, if anyone would like to co-sponsor, I've got an agenda or a request for an ordinance to prohibit elected assembly and/or mayor from serving on subordinate elected boards. And I think that's important because if you look at our Borough Code 4.20 ZEC TAC 020, it specifically gives the manager authority and oversight of those boards. So when the manager is responsible for the oversight of the board, but we're responsible for the manager. So if we're sitting on one of those boards making decisions, and it creates an impossible situation for the manager to have to be responsible and validate the decisions of a board when his or her boss is then opining on that decision. So I see this as a manifestation of that exact issue. I think I would hope the manager would feel empowered to reject this contract outright because, as the mayor's pointed out, there's an awful lot of land that the borough owns. The service district doesn't need one-stop shopping for their gravel for a year's worth of gravel at a time. I called a storage company less than half a mile away. They kind of laughed at the situation and said that their storage rate is between 25 cents and 45 cents per square foot per month. City of Kodiak charges 60 cents per square foot per month for waterfront storage. If we're talking about salt, 9 super sacks of salt, about 108 square feet, that comes out to $64.80 a month to lease on the waterfront, or $48.60 a month to lease at Mill Bay West, or $9.26 a square foot to lease at this property. So gravel aside, when we're talking about what actually needs to be stored, we've got ample storage right there at Bayside Fire. We've got an unused school building with a big lot right next to it. There's a lot of opportunity here, so I think I've probably rambled on long enough about that. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, and then Jeremiah.
I too have a bit of a problem with this in the fact that all the other contractors that are doing road work either are using their own property or finding a place to store material, and that's part of their bid. And to me, this really adds on to the bid that the Service Area 1 contractor is doing as a borough expense. And like some have said, there's that big empty lot next to North Star that's doing nothing. There are other places, but even that's borough land. Why the boroughs should supply land to a private contractor and pay for it after it's been bid, I do not like it on principle. I think the contractor's job is to make sure he has secured such property, whether it's his or someone else's, and that should be part of his bid. I think it's giving an unfair advantage to that contractor. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Jeremiah.
Yeah, nice points there. I pretty much would echo their statements. I have a problem with it. Like Jared said, Mr. Mayor, we have lots of land. The first one that came to mind was on the list that the mayor provided was Dark Lake. If I recall, aren't we in the middle of talks of moving the dumpsters back at Dark Lake to a new location? There's plenty of room right there. And if that, for some wild reason, wouldn't work, this seems like an excellent opportunity to work with the city. The next area that comes to mind is the Pillar Mountain gravel pit. There's got to be better options than throwing money away. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, the list of that Amy provided of some lots is making its way down. Bo.
Thank you. I agree with how folks feel about this one. Well, I appreciate Mr. Fields' generosity I would want to remind folks that he did allow the service area to use this land for 5 years, if I remember right, at no cost. So there is something to be said about that, but I do agree that with the increased cost of living here, the mill rate for service area one's fairly high for services rendered. Under the new contract, I think adding this to that would be unreasonable to expect folks to absorb an additional cost for service for that area. I would be open to a very short-term lease to transition. I mean, there is a literal mountain of gravel over there and equipment, so I think with winter taking hold right now, I think it would be unfair to folks who are looking to just get the work done. They're ready, things are in place, to ask them to pull the rug out now. But I would be open to a 6-month lease to get us through winter, and then folks could transition from there. But I agree with points made that we have plenty of land available. I haven't looked at all these yet, but plenty of great flat options that don't require a lot of uphill driving or downhill driving to access those materials. So I wouldn't support a long-term lease, certainly not 4 years, but I would be open to 6 months to get us through winter.
Thank you, Bo. Anyone else? I asked Amy several questions about this too. I think some of the things that might be relevant. So before the lot on Reznov was used, yes, the materials were stored on near island, and the concern there was about theft. So I think that is probably a legitimate concern of Service Area 1. It is, I guess, atypical for contractors to store their materials and equipment for free on borough land. It has happened out in the flats to store equipment at the fire station, but that was really for, the proximity was really valuable there. Normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, this is something that we would issue an RFP for.
Yes, so I think if we were looking
not
at
use
this
our land.
from the beginning, we would
Yeah.
say, hey, who has somewhere and how much would it cost? And we would do our normal procurement process. But because this land has already been used and all their materials are there, that made this one a little bit different.
So this isn't really an action item, but I think you're looking just for some guidance and consensus on where to go from here.
Yes.
I heard, I think the most reasonable thing I've heard so far is what Bo suggested, right? A short-term lease just to get them through until we can transition to either borough land or if we decide to do an RFP. Steve?
I understand that concern, but I'm still bothered by the fact that this one contractor is getting a benefit from the borough leasing land. I think that should more be a discussion between the contractor and the landowner. Theft on Near Island, DeHart's there, Golden's there, Brecken's there. If they have theft, they just deal with it. So really do have a bit of a problem of suddenly this land needs to be leased and can't be used the way it had been in the past. And I think the owner should have contacted the contractor and saying this is coming down the pike and warned him, not directly to the borough, because we're not actually using it. Just my opinion.
No, thank you, Steve. Jeremiah, did you have? No. Oh, okay. So what kind of guidance would we like to give to the mayor? I think I would find it difficult to come back to Mr. Fields and the Service Area 1 chair and say, thanks, but no thanks, because I think that would put Service Area 1 in kind of a bind, but I saw Dave's hand and then Jeremiah.
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with what Mr. Ames said, that, if we're talking about borough supplied materials, that's one thing. But again, we can move the salt in a couple days over to Bayside. Certainly wasn't the borough's decision to put multiple years worth of gravel there. And the borough absolutely should not, or the service district should not be paying a cent to pay for someone's equipment storage, because as was said, that was baked into the bid. And if I was a losing bidder on that, I'd be filing suit the next day, because, you award a contract and then pay for the storage when the other bidders would have baked that into their bid. So, I think this needs to be unwound sooner than later.
Jeremiah.
I'm right there with you guys. I love what you're saying. I think just in all reality, Bo's right. We just had that first snowfall. It's cold. Maybe, if it's amenable to Mr. Fields, maybe we can just have 1 month just to be able to get things out of the way. And, I'm looking at the lease here, and it says the lease shall run for a period of 1 year commencing on the first day of January. Okay, so we're already in the middle of this. I read it wrong initially. It's 26. But Bo's right. We need an adjustment period, and you two are totally right. We shouldn't be paying for this, and that should be an issue between the contractor and the landlord.
Caroline.
I have a question about the contract with the contractor. Is there anything in there that says that the borough is responsible for providing a space to store their equipment?
No, and I don't know what equipment is there. It's specifically for materials.
For the materials. Yeah.
But the idea of having it there is that the service area residents are paying the contractor less time for driving back and forth, because you're paying an hourly rate. So moving it closer prevents the drive out to Near Island and back and forth. They are still paying to get the materials there initially by the hour. They're just paying by dump truck load instead of the smaller load. And so I believe that the service area board thought that this was going to save the service area taxpayer money in the long run, and that's why they chose to do it. And I guess the reason this is so difficult for me is because this is an elected board for the service area who said yes to this and do this. And so now it's going to be another elected board telling another elected board no. And that's why it's awkward. But I think as the code sets out, those boards do refer to me. But as Assemblymember Johnson pointed out, that's been a difficult position to be in, given the personalities involved.
Scott and Jeremiah.
The piece of equipment is a grader, a road grader, and it's kept there, Volvo road grader, I believe. In addition, there's a building there, and then there's the pile of gravel as well. And in the building is where they're storing the salt and the chloride, I believe. The thing that I found confusing about this was agreed to a year ago. And so it's already been running a year under the authority of Service District 1, not under our authority. So asking for this, I'm not sure why we got it now. If they're willing to spend the money that they get from residents for the service district, they'd give $1,000 a month for this.
Well, the board is willing to spend it, and they did go through the proper steps. It was at a work session. It was at all the meetings are public. The people that I've talked to that live in Service Area 1 aren't aware of it, but that's not necessarily a problem because they're not paying attention to those meetings, and we've discussed how spotty those meetings were over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So we're trying to ensure that they have quarterly meetings so this stuff is more public and what they're doing is transparent. And I can follow the wishes of the board and just sign this. But it's just so out of the ordinary for what we normally do. I looked at 14 lots. I just went to the map here and I looked at lots that were in Service Area 1 and I wrote down the PID numbers and I went into Lands Viewer and I looked at 14 different lots. And there's lots of them that you can see we clearly could not use, but there are 3 on that list. Dark Lake, the lot by North Star, and there's area around Killarney Hills or Cannafield that we could possibly use. I talked to the Service Area 1 chair, and I didn't talk to him about Dark Lake because Dark Lake does have a fence that is lockable, like a gate. You just have to get around the beautiful RV that's sitting in there. But that's part of the deal. They get to rent that too. So we do have areas that we could use that could be away from theft. It's just not as convenient, and it's not what they're currently doing. So I can sign it, and we can move on and let the elected board's decision go, or you guys can override it. That's they did ask for it to start at the beginning of 2025, so we're 11 months in to what they asked for.
Jeremiah, and then Steve.
I think I was envisioning Dark Lake as a different parcel. Lakeside Second Lot 2A makes the most sense to me, and it kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. That's where we're having an issue with people dumping their illegal trash next to the dumpsters, next to that ball field. It's adjacent to the service district, there's plenty of room. More traffic from the borough over there might mitigate that issue with the illegal dumping, and I think we're moving those dumpsters soon anyway, so that is the ideal spot in my eyes. Thanks.
Steve.
So the board elected to rent this lot, is that correct?
Yes.
And was this coming out of their money, or were they trying to obligate
This is
us as borough as a
no,
whole?
this is Service Area 1's money.
Okay, so
from
they
their-
want
from their
to, Service Area
from their mill
1
rate.
wants to pay for it out of their taxes?
The board does. The board wants them to pay it, yes.
Well, that kind of changes my view a little in the fact that if that's what the service district wants, and they're paying for it out of their extra taxes, then I'm okay with it. And if there's a problem, that's got to do between the service district and its residents paying attention and doing their job. Seeing as it's coming out of their own money, I still have some issues in the back of my mind of why they're subsidizing a contractor, but if that's what they choose to do, I kind of feel we have to let the district do their thing. It's not necessarily our job to decide how they should spend their money. Thanks.
Anyone else? Clear as mud. Right. right, Amy.
So I think what we could do is honor the 2025 and pay 2025s and get through the winter and say, that we'll sign a lease until May of 2026. And then after that, if they want to continue having it in their district, they can use it, this lot or this lot. They can move it up to North Star. They can move to Dark Lake. They can give them a choice of spots that they could use it, and then see how that works. There is pushback, so, but it doesn't sit immediately right that the ratepayers that live in service area one would be paying for that. And so if it's okay that we use borough land for that, I think that would be a better choice and save those people money, so.
I see a thumbs up. Steve?
At this point, I would agree with letting the lease through May and letting them do it. And then I think we should have a totally separate discussion of whether each borough responsibility or whether the borough should make land available for a contractor to use for free or whatever. But I think we ought to separate the two issues. So it'd be a lot easier to come to a conclusion, I think.
Okay, I'm seeing some nods and thumbs up about that plan, Amy. Okay, all right. Okay, moving on. Next up is a North Star School facility update. Okay, Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So because we have new assembly members, I want to go back and kind of do a quick recap. As you know, and I sent out just this week, we actually just got the letter from the school district saying that this facility was officially ours. We were waiting on a couple of things to be repaired, and one of those things was the fire panel. That is up and running, and that system is working regularly. With this being our facility, all of the utilities are in our name, and so in the packet tonight, you'll see a budget performance report from the finance director showing how much money it has cost us since we have purchased since it was given to us. There is a project that's not on there, and that is something we've talked about recently. We are installing new burners on both of the boilers. That project is just under $25,000, so it's not going to show up on here because the money hasn't been spent yet, but it is obligated. In your at your little station there on the dais, you're going to see a colorful spreadsheet that looks like this. This is the information that I gave the assembly when Shunak first gave its presentation about the space requested for the daycare. It's just under 10,500 square feet. We proposed a rental rate of $1.20 per square foot. There was some discussion on whether we included the main hallway space as part of the square foot or not. So you can see those two different amounts, $150,523.20 if we do, and $131,198.40 a year if we don't include that. We took an average annual utility cost from information that the school district gave us and found out the average utilities were $128,078.33 a year. Our current insurance payment is just over $27,000. In fiscal year 24, we spent just over $11,000 on snow and ice control for that facility. And then we are adopting that street light because there is no more association helping us pay for that. So for what we know of right now, the annual costs are going to be around $170,000. That is with a water and sewer rate, as we're being treated as if the building is empty right now. So that part will go up once it's occupied. So if we are going to keep this building, these are the expenses that we are going to incur no matter what. And so the last time we left this discussion, we talked about the possibility of investigating selling the building versus the possibility of renting out the building. And then the discussion just kind of died. And so I want to breathe some life into that and try to give Shunak an answer. You know, if it's yes or no, just an answer would be nice if we were going to pursue continuing to rent that out. I don't have any other requests for rentals except for I am on the Kodiak Economic Development Corporation board, and I know that they're looking for office space just because of my place on that board. And The State Defense Force has asked about space in the building. Outside of that, I haven't had any serious inquiries. But the daycare is looking to rent an entire wing and the library. They have a waiting list of over 40 people. Their presentation is included in your packet tonight if you didn't get to see that initially. And you heard in public comment, JJ is here if you have any questions for JJ about that. Is there going to be additional expense with lots of little kids running around, with toilets getting clogged and stuff? Absolutely. There is going to be more work for us if we do rent it, but I think the opportunity to have a daycare there is something that would be pretty incredible for the community. So I'm just looking for your thoughts. What information do you need in order to help you make this decision? If we are going to sell it, and we're going to pursue that, we're going to need appraisers and, a lot of other stuff. We're going to need rezoned. It is public land. It's 13.5 acres of public land. So let's not put the gravel there if you want to sell. But, just trying to think ahead. We did think ahead for the daycare portion, and planning and zoning has passed a similar use determination, so we can use that space as a daycare. So we've taken care of some of those obstacles that we knew were coming. But with this new makeup of the assembly, I'm interested in finding out what our thoughts are on moving forward so we can have a usable space for somebody.
And the only deferred maintenance that's on the radar is the roof.
Right. So this building has new windows and siding that are beautiful, and it's a little sad. But yes, we do have. We had the roof scheduled for next summer, but that got taken off of the priority list as soon as the school district decided that this wasn't going to be school anymore, and East got moved to the top of the list as far as roofs go.
So how I see it, there are two questions here. One is pursuing the lease, particularly with the preschool for that wing, versus if y'all want to sell it. And the second thing is, depending on how we answer number one, two is, do we want the manager to create a plan for leasing out the remaining space in the other wing? Okay, so I have Scott first, then Steve, then Dave, and then Bo.
I had heard that Parks and Rec was interested in having little dribblers in the gym. Is that still something active?
They have been there, and they're there all the way through Thanksgiving. The deal that we made with Parks and Recs is they are able to use this space as long as they provided their own janitorial service.
Are they paying?
No. Well, with janitorial service. One of the things that I did talk to the school district about this week was the school district is willing to let us and continue actually them doing the booking of that space and using their fee structure. They have a pretty good software system, and they have fees for profit versus nonprofit, that kind of stuff. So they're willing to continue doing that if we still want to rent out and let people use that space.
We share the responsibility, the fiscal responsibility for the pool with the city and the school district. Why can't we do that with the gym at North Star?
We can do that. We just have to alter the agreement. And not even a lot, because gyms are included, but because the school district had their insurance and their janitorial service and all of those services included, because it was a school, none of that stuff is included anymore. So when we alter that agreement, we just have to make sure that we specify certain things. Or if we're going to offer janitorial service as part of a lease to anyone who's renting from us, we could include the bathrooms for the gym area as well.
Yeah, my understanding was that the gym at North Star was a full-size gym, whereas at the other elementary schools, it's not. Their gyms are not full-size.
It is full-size.
And leasing with hallway and without hallway, what do you do about the hallway? I mean, is that just you give it away?
So that's just, in some commercial leases, they include public spaces, and some that they don't. That's actually one of the reasons we're in the court with CANA, is on public use and space. And if you access nonprofit area with that hallway, is that included versus not? That's a more complicated question than I have answers to, sir.
And finally, you've got the average annual utility cost. That's when it was fully active, correct?
Yes.
So it would be, if you lease to Sunak for one wing, it'd be considerably lower.
Yes, because the heating is on zone control, so we wouldn't have to keep, if the other wing was empty, we'd have to keep it heated, but it wouldn't have to be at toddler temperature.
Aren't there close-off doors too,
There
for
are.
each wing? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Steve?
I do see the value, having known several parents with kids, of having a daycare, and many communities do support such a thing. The 150 or the 131 obviously doesn't cover the expense, but they're not leasing the whole building anyway. Do you know what percentage of the building that wing and library consist of? 50?
It's probably close to 50. Outside of the library, we have the commercial kitchen and the office space for like where the principals were, where they ate lunch, the whole other wing, which is very similarly sized, and then the gym.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we could find someone to lease the other wing, obviously, then we would be higher than the expenses. And if you're only leasing half the building to someone, you can't expect them to cover everything. I mean, if you're a landlord and half your building's empty, you can't expect your one tenant to cover everything. So that's something we've got to consider. The gym, I would like to see if we can come up with some sort of agreement with, I guess, Park and Rec or somebody, so it gets used some. Letting it sit empty and just used for little dribblers seems like a waste to me. It seems like somebody should be able to come up with a good use for the gym, whether it's Park and Rec, whatever. With our weather, teaching kids soccer in there, other things, I think would be a very viable thing and good for the community. I think Park and Rec would be the most likely person to work with to try to do that. But short of selling the building, we do have to do the roof anyway, or it's just going to ruin the building. So that expense is something that, if we're trying to hang on to it, we just have to bite the bullet and do it. And I don't know the rest of the assembly members' views on keeping or selling it. I look at leasing it as something the borough is doing to better the community of Kodiak. It's an expense, so it does need discussion, but that is kind of our job, and I know it's one of the weak points within this community is daycare and preschool. So I'd like my fellow assembly members to consider that when they're considering options. I mean, we may end up losing a little money, but if you look at our schools, we lose money, but we educate kids. So is it similar to that? Because it is something that's needed, and the private sector has not been able to keep up. We did have one years ago, Small World, but it got into financial trouble, and I think it's a valuable resource for this community and should be seriously considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I have Dave next, and then Bo, and then Jeremiah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it would not be in favor of us owning a building indefinitely. That being said, we know the makeup of the community is rapidly changing in multiple ways. The Coast Guard is going to be sending 2 offshore patrol cutters here. Historically, 30% or so of those folks might live in town. Our community is making a play to be an icebreaker home port. Each one of those would bring another 100+ families. So I hate to see us get out of the building business altogether until we see how things shake out for, say, a 5 to 10 year period. During that period, as has been said, the more occupancy of the building we can have, the better. That'll cut down on vandalism, and all the other related challenges that come with owning an empty building. As far as the cost goes, one of the reasons that I had asked the manager to document the value of our in-kind donations is as a comparison point. I think, we as an assembly and the public all deserve to, make the best decision possible with all the possible information. Previous discussions of this group had really focused on, making money or breaking even on this. I don't see that as a realistic option. I wish it was. But, as I've said before, anything that can make money is done by the private sector, and government gets stuck with the rest. We're not going to profit on some of this stuff. We don't profit on the shooting range, but I'm damn glad we have it. We don't profit on the fairgrounds. I'm real glad we have those too. Same with the VFW. Those are all opportunity costs that this board elects not to exercise and instead donates to very worthy causes. I see a daycare at North Star as being a very similar question. Do we value childcare in this community? If so, do we make North Star available at a rate that can make daycare affordable for local families? Like I said, we won't break even, but I think we should base the conversation around the marginal cost. If it's going to cost us $100,000 a year to keep the building completely boarded up, whereas it would cost us $160,000 a year to run it as a daycare, well, then we should look to recover that difference. Again, my opinion, one vote, but that's where I stand on those two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And really quick, before I toss it over to Bo, in addition to the Coast Guard examples you gave, the spaceport is looking to rapidly expand, and they're even talking about manufacturing here on the island. Plus, there's still the Alaska Supreme Court decision that is yet to come down about the legality of using public funds for homeschooling. And that decision could come any day now and could revert some numbers back too. So a couple of other factors. Bo.
Thank you. So when we last discussed this, we did request determination for fair market value for leasing square footage and for the property value. I understand that likely would come with a 5-figure fiscal note, but there is concern. Okay, let me rewind a bit. I think this is a great idea. The demand is far outweighs capacity here in the community. I do think it limits our ability to grow and slow out migration. But I'm reminded that this is a public facility that we're looking to lease to a private entity. So it's not a school. We're not responsible for daycare. We're responsible for public education. So when people come to me and clearly support this idea, there's also been people that have come to me and say, why are we showing favoritism to lease a facility at a far reduced rate than they could get in town for another facility to lease space? But I also acknowledge that when it's of public interest, to Mr. Johnson's point, that's something that we can and should consider. But what gives me pause there is other entities that want to potentially lease space there. Do we provide them that same benefit if it's nothing that's going to fall under the category of public benefit? So if it's a small business that's just in it for profit, do we consider that the same? So understand where I'm coming from here. This is it's not as straightforward as we're helping a business that's going to provide a community service, which is fantastic. I do support it, but we need to be mindful of how we're framing this and how we're communicating this to the public, because not everyone's on board with this. For example, we're leasing a large portion of this building here, unless I'm correct, for $2.55 a square foot, which is double what the proposed rate is. So how do we reconcile that? I think it's agreeable that we can consider a reduced rate per square footage if it serves a public need, but how do we apply that to everyone else who's interested? That's something I think we need to make sure we're answering that question as well. I do support this, but these are things that we need to think about, because that we represent the whole community, and not everyone is on board with this, because there are people who say, hey, I want to rent a space and start a business, or have my business in their future for $1.20 a square foot, because I can't find that anywhere in town. So we just need to make sure that what do we qualify as serving a community need, or does it even matter we just do a blanket $1.20 a square foot for the entire facility? These are just food for thought that we need to be mindful of when we are taking a public facility and leasing to a private entity. I'll wrap up with fully support it. I think it's totally justified. The need is great. We need to slow out migration, and this is one of the contributing factors. A large contributing factor is a lack of affordable childcare. But I encourage everyone to be mindful of the reduced rate compared to other areas, including this building we're in now that we're renting to the city for twice the rate. And if we're going to rent the other wing, whether it's piecemeal office by office or the entire wing, do we apply the same logic to someone who doesn't necessarily serve the public interest? So just trying to be thorough.
Yep. Thank you, Bo. We do have similar relationships with like Red Cross and YMCA. Amy, I saw your hand raised. Did you want to respond to Bo real quick?
Well, that's all I was going to say is our other public facilities that have nonprofits in them, Red Cross and YMCA are both paying $1.20 a square foot.
Jeremiah.
First off, I will say that the Luton Cut Shunak program is awesome. They do great. My own kid went there, loved them. So not coming at you as an organization, but Bo started to hit on exactly what I was going to say. If we're renting that out for $1.20 a square foot, sign me up and I'll move my business in tomorrow. Because as far as I can tell, about $3 or so, it was the going rate for square footage in Kodiak, and we can still be nice and do $2 a square foot, and we're no longer in the red. And the thing you guys will always hear from me on pretty much any topic is that I think anything we do needs to make some money. So I think there might be a middle ground here, and bumping that rent up to a little bit more acceptable, in my eyes, a profitable revenue is also going to cover the hidden costs, hopefully, of the wear and tear that little kids do on buildings. So, yeah, I love the idea that the rent's way too low.
Caroline, and then Steve.
I'm in 100% support of a childcare facility going into North Star. I think it would be a huge benefit for this community, not only to families, but to the workforce and local businesses too, because if people are able to go to work every single day because they have reliable childcare and a safe space for their kid to go, we grow our economy and we keep people here. I think it makes sense to put a childcare in North Star. I would like to think about the other wing. Are we going to keep that open for other childcare places as well? Like I know YMCA was interested in it at some point, so can we make sure that in a lease somewhere that's made available to them where it's not written that there can only be one childcare place in there, not a monopoly, I guess. But overall, yes, very in support of this.
Thank you, Caroline. Steve, before I go back to you, I'm wondering, if JJ, could you come down and answer a question about the question that's come up? You're obviously not a for-profit organization, but can you describe the nonprofit structure of what the preschool is like? Like, you're not a 501c3, correct?
No, absolutely not. So right now, before I answer that, can I just read, I received a statement from our Lieutenant Jute child care administrator who's taking classes this evening, so she was not able to attend. But maybe this would help a little bit if I just.
Let me ask the assembly, are you okay with that? Okay.
Okay, thank you. So, let's see, we currently enroll 41 students with 44% identifying as Alaska Native. Our wait list includes 36 children ranging in age from infants through 5 years old. Of those on the wait list, 38% are Alaska Native, which reflects a significant community need for additional high-quality early childhood opportunities. To meet this growing demand, we maintain a dedicated team, 10 full-time staff, 2 part-time staff, and 3 seasonal support staff through partnerships with Kodiak Island Borough School District and Head Start. And that means that if we expand, we're going to have to hire more teachers. There's going to be more money spent on teachers and trying to keep, because right now we pay more than any other child care facility just to keep teachers. And so that's something that we need to consider also. Our goal is to continue providing a safe, nurturing, and culturally grounded learning environment and to responsibly grow to meet the needs of our community. To responsibly expand our preschool program and meet the needs of our families and the community, we will require the following, of which the North Star building can provide. First of all, additional classroom space, classrooms equipped with in-room bathrooms to meet licensing and safety standards, adequate room to support age-appropriate group sizes and developmental needs. Expansion of classrooms will also require additional teaching staff to remain compliant with state guidelines. Second, to increase storage and teacher workspace, storage for curriculum materials, cultural resources, outdoor gear, and classroom equipment. Dedicated workspace for teachers to collaborate, complete documentation, and plan intentional learning experiences. Third, updated and age-appropriate outdoor equipment. St. Mary's equipment is old. It's sad. A safe, fully fenced playground with updated, developmentally appropriate equipment. Space designed for gross motor development, cultural activities, outdoor learning, and year-round weather conditions. Fourth, family engagement space, a designated area for family events. Last year and this year, we're planning having the Christmas program at St. Mary's, and last year the room was packed, and we really would like to have more space, possibly utilize the gym for just the performances, but yeah, so that's to be considered. Let's see. The space is essential to strengthening homeschool partnerships and supporting the whole child. Expanded staffing, additional early childhood educators to maintain ratios as enrollment increases. We'd like to have a full-time cook, possibly look for a grant for, maybe lease the kitchen at a future date to provide school lunches for the children. Classroom materials and supplies, age-appropriate furniture, learning materials, cultural curriculums, resources, and technology that support high-quality early childhood education. Expansion is not simply about adding space, it's about building the infrastructure needed to ensure our youngest learners are safe, supported, and thriving. With community and assembly support, we can grow in a way that reflects the needs, values, and cultural identity of families we serve in our community. And that's from April McBride, Child Care Program Administrator. So back to the question you asked. Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, sure. It's just gonna, just for our education, can you describe just the organizational structure in terms of tribal, private,
Right.
nonprofit?
So the preschool supports itself. And right now, we only have 3 classrooms at St. Mary's, as you know. So our tribe we've helped build the program through SHUNEC funding, but now Lieutenant Jute preschool is on their own. And so right now that's the structure that we're like you said, we're very proud of our program. We're proud of our teachers and our facility for what little we have. But I think growing in the future and the way that the community is growing, and like you spoke about people coming in and how hard it is for people to find childcare in Kodiak is very difficult, so.
Any questions for JJ? Dave? Oh,
Not for JJ.
not for JJ. Steve, did you have one for JJ?
With the lease that you're asking now, do you think that is sufficient, say, for your 2-year plan?
Yeah,
Or do you think your expansion would maybe need more space?
I think it's good for our 2-year plan. We also have, one of our employees, Amanda Kavanaugh, who teaches and assists with the Alutiiq dancers. So the library could be used for practicing for the dancers in the evenings, and also some little after-school get-togethers and programs that she has lots of ideas. And then Matt Van Dale is also here, and our biologist, and he would love to be able to go in and teach the children and show, give them different opportunities, which we don't have right now, so. But I would like to invite you all, if you'd like to schedule a tour of our preschool right now, I would love for you guys to see it, because it's amazing, so.
Okay, thank you. Stand by just in case there. You can have a seat. You don't have to. You can sit by,
Okay.
not stand by. Dave.
Thank you. Couple thoughts have come to mind in this discussion. One is, I do appreciate the idea that we should, look to break even or make a little on what we do. Again, my counterpoint to that is we don't look to break even with all the other in-kind donations we make. And so I think that's important to keep in mind. The other part is, as my fellow assembly member pointed out, we have a responsibility for schools, not necessarily for childcare, and that is an absolutely correct position. I would offer, though, that one of the most common and I would say misguided criticisms of education in Alaska is everybody loves to, say we spend more on education than any other state and our results are terrible. I've always countered that point with, no, we spend more on insurance than any other state. We really don't spend that much on education. It's health insurance. But notwithstanding that point, the single biggest indicator of being at or ahead of grade level for grade 3 literacy tests is access to high quality preschool. So when we talk about test scores as a performance metric of our schools, we should also take into consideration that having an opportunity to provide high quality childcare with age appropriate ELA instruction is what results in those improved test scores that I think everybody wants to see. So while no, it's not a direct responsibility of the borough, tangentially, as we're responsible for the education and the funding, if we want to see those improvements, the single best thing we can do is increase the number of kids who have access to that instruction. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Did I have you next, Steve? Yes, Steve, and then Scott.
Well, as I said earlier, people talk about, we need to make money, and I would like to see some profit, but I don't think it's fair to expect to make profit off of half the building. At one point, as it was brought up, I believe it was the YMCA was looking into, and if they're not, I'd love to see someone develop an after-school program. There are a lot of kids that are older than 5 but get out of school, and if the parents are working, what do? I mean, 15-year-old, it's one thing. Asking an 8-year-old to take care of himself after school? Nah, maybe we really need to see if we can find someone who would take the other wing and develop that sort of program. It's something I would think this town needs, and the two could go hand in hand, Because I think you'd find many of the people who went to the preschool would end up going to the after-school program when they're old enough to leave the preschool, but not really be left at home alone. Just something, I'd love to find some organization to step up to that and take another part of the building, which also would then probably move it into the if we rent out the other wing, then it does move it into the profitability category. And that's why I'm strongly that we need to find somebody for the other part of the building, and ideally, I think it would be an after-school setup. But what organization would take that up, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Madam Manager, there's an answer to that question, isn't there?
So YMCA has already started an after-school program here. It's up and running at one of our elementary schools right now, and it's about to expand to its second. Eventually, it will go out to Peterson as well. So they're doing East and Main in town, and then Peterson will start up. There was interest from YMCA in purchasing North Star, but they have other projects on their list in the Anchorage area before, and they wanted to be able to watch Kodiak's population to see if it goes up or down before they were willing to make that decision on developing here. So YMCA is here. They are the ones that are in the other half of the building by Red Cross in our old projects office, is where we put their main office, and that program is up and running.
I don't think there's any question that there's a huge need for childcare in Kodiak. My understanding is that a number of families that have come either for the police to start working for the police or for the school district and did not stay was because they couldn't find childcare. And that's disturbing to me. I'm all in support of Sunak's approach here, and I think we should do it with them at $120 a square foot, by the way.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'm just going back to my business mindset, and everybody here has great points. I'm not sure exactly where I fall on the issue, but if these guys are full with 72 kids, they're going to bring in $1 million, and even if we try to meet in the middle somewhere and go up 50 cents, we still get ourselves into a much more tenable position where, we're starting to put money back in residents' pockets. Either way, if the assembly decides to go with it as a written, I agree with you all that it's a need that needs to be addressed. I just, whenever possible, want to see us putting money back in the taxpayer's pocket. And this does seem like a good way to still be nice and give a nice rate, much better than they're going to get anywhere else on the island, and put ourselves in a better position.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I'm going to say something real quick before, and then we'll get to Bo. I would really prefer that we take the conversation about profit and making money off the table. That is not the government's job at all. Well, I take that back. It should not be the government's job at all. We might have some politicians today that think differently. Profit is absolutely nowhere in our charge. It's nowhere in our mission. Profit is nowhere in our powers. Our mission is quality of life, and I think that's what it boils down to. And then I can go into a whole thing about economy and government, but I won't. But I will say, I think I was talking to, or Amy had mentioned this a couple of days ago, that a power that we have that we don't use a lot is the power. We do have the power of economic development. That is something that we can do. And the more you learn about economic development, especially in a place like this, is just so how everything is so interconnected, and if this is one area that is lacking, for whatever market reasons out there, it is the job of government to use, I think, that power of economic development to set things up and support things up, so that interconnection is solid and predictable for people. All right, off the soapbox now. Up next, Bo.
Thank you. And I'm To be clear, I am by no means, when I'm looking at lease rates, thinking about profitability, but I also don't want the community to subsidize private entity. So to make that abundantly clear, so I'm also curious if we have, again, I would like to see this happen, but we have a whole nother wing available that could make up the gap in utility costs, insurance, snow, ice, internet. I don't think we have anything on here for surveillance. There was a pretty sizable sum that the school district was paying that was shocking. I believe upwards of $50,000-$60,000 a year to surveil one facility. We'll get to that in another meeting, but is there any sort of surveillance costs we're looking at?
We would like to set up a security camera system. I talked to our IT director. He doesn't have he thinks the easiest way to do that would be an RFP, right? And have someone come do it for us instead of them trying to do it themselves. I believe that some of the school district cameras are still there, but they had a fiber optic line straight over to the high school. And so that's why theirs was so expensive. We would not do it that way, of course.
Yeah. Well, and not to, again, I don't believe this would be anyone's responsibility as a leasee to cover surveillance. Is something would benefit the borough to make sure we're keeping an eye on that. Certainly not at that previous amount, but I'm also curious about filling the other wing. Having half of the facility full of young kids running around. Are there businesses we would exclude from the other wing that folks would have strong feelings about them being there? Do we, I imagine if it's not falling under the category, which I do think it would be for the sake of transparency, we should populate what we consider to be a subsidized rate for community benefit. I think that would be a really good idea when we're leasing space at a reduced rate for folks. But I'm curious about the other half. If we do agree to this, which I do support it, I will vote yes on it. But with strong encouragement that we fill the other half. So these are concerns I have downstream of that decision is who do we open that up to? Are there any exclusions to who we would allow in there? Can we exclude people legally from leasing that space? Because I do think about a lot of little kids running around, and folks might have strong feelings about some types of businesses being in there. So just thinking not just what's right in front of us, but beyond that, what we're going to do with the other half of that facility. But I guess I'll quit my long-winded statement and say I do support it.
Amy, were you about to say something to respond?
I was just going to say we can control on what kind of business is in there by the zoning as well. So I have a similar use determination the same way that St. Mary's got one for daycare, and that's what it's currently zoned right now. But it's not open to like any business to come in. It's still public land. So it already has restrictions on it. So we're in control of the zoning, well, with Planning and Zoning Commission, of course.
Jeremiah.
I just want to be very clear. I think maybe the wording that I used was not the best. When I say profit, I don't mean that the borough itself is profiting, but in my eyes, when we can have more money in our coffers, we can lower the burden on the taxpayer and thereby improve the quality of life. And that's where I'm coming from in that regard.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bo.
Sorry, just brief follow-up, Madam Manager. As it's currently zoned, what types of businesses can pursue a lease there? And I already forgot who you said may be interested in. Do they fall within that zoning?
The Kodiak Economic Development Corporation is looking for offices, and I'm not an expert on zoning, but I can absolutely get that information back to you so you have a better idea.
Okay, so what I'm hearing so far then is that we would like the manager to pursue preparing a lease and entering into lease negotiations with Shunak or with the preschool. Okay, I think that answers that first question. Yes, that was a yes. That seemed unanimous. And then the second thing, would you like the manager to and staff to start creating a plan for the remaining wing or remaining space? But okay. They said yes. They said yes. Anything else? Ms. Williams? Okay. Do we need a break? Okay, yes, let's go 3 minutes. 3-minute break. Great, plenty. Okay.
We got 114 roads to steps in.
Right, no, exactly, yes.
Again, it's just like with these leases.
All right, are we back? Are we recording? Okay, we are back. Up next is the Assembly Review of Alaska Municipal League resolutions and position statements. Nova, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Assembly. The Alaska Municipal League will be held in Anchorage next month. And at the end of the conference, there's going to be a business meeting where there's going to be resolutions presented to the membership and also some legislative bills that will be proposed. And the mayor will be attending the conference, and he will be getting the voting card for the Kodiak Island Borough. So we would like to present to you the resolutions so that you can at least have discussions and give your opinions or your suggestions to the mayor in case, you're concerned about the resolutions or you're in support of the resolutions. So that's why they're before you for discussion. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Nova. Yeah, as long as I've been on the assembly, when I was on the assembly, we had never done this. The mayor has just gone up, if the mayor goes up, and then just kind of would vote whatever the mayor is feeling. And so I would like to change that. And since I am at AML, as Nova said, as I'm representing the whole body, I would like feedback. So I went ahead and or I sent to Nova. Nova sent through email, and I think might have printed out some copies of. I went through all of the resolutions. Some of the resolutions are boilerplate. We vote to pass these resolutions like every year. I think like the first few on there are like that. But kind of just put what I'm thinking on there. I support all of the resolutions for a variety of different reasons. I didn't find that any of the resolutions would have a negative impact on Kodiak. So I will leave it up to you if you want to go through each of these 22 one by one. I think if I remember correctly, Dave hates the resolution process from his school board experience, but I am, just willing to sit here and listen to what you have to say. Jeremiah.
First of all, thank you for making that list. I spent a lot of time on that 117-page document, and it was not fun at all. I feel like I agree with you on almost everything. I think your thought process is in the perfect spot. But the one I don't understand is 2026-06, property assessment fairness. I don't understand why we'd want to avoid public disclosure, and I was hoping you could elaborate on that for me.
I think, maybe, I don't know, maybe Seema might have some input on this, but I might be putting Seema on the spot. My understanding of it was, the confidentiality of the sales information would be confidentially disclosed to the assessor so that it's not public information. So it's just the amount that the property was sold for. That's the only thing that would be hidden in your, or not disclosed in your process, right?
Alaska is not a open sale state like Colorado is. There are states where you have to tell the public how much you bought your house for. We are not a disclosure state, so they don't tell us. They don't have to tell us when they sell. So it's really hard to make that market value, like the state statute says, when you don't know how much people are selling their houses for. We're always going to be behind. If they decide that assessors can know, we would not be able to tell you guys. It would still remain confidential. So you, the public, wouldn't know how much your neighbor sold their house for, but they're trying to look at making it so that assessors would know in order to make it to the state statute saying that we had to be 100% of market value. Right now, when people do disclose to us, we do it as confidential and we do not share with anybody else.
And so my reasoning is that, it gives you better data. And fairer data.
It would give us great data.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes me feel much better about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Caroline, Scott.
What happens with trailers? Are we writing those down? I mean, how do we follow the ownership of trailers, I guess is the question. When they depopulated the trailer park out there, they had trouble finding the owner of some of them.
So the best way that we find information for trailers is when things get billed. July 1st, when the tax notice goes out and somebody doesn't own that trailer anymore because they're not required to take it to the DMV. They're not required to record it as a sale. It's a bill of sale or an agreement, a handshake. So when somebody gets a bill, a tax bill for a property that they don't own, which is usually a trailer, that's when we find out who owns it now, and we try and transfer everything over at that time.
Would this thing that AML has make any difference there?
It will not, because it's not a requirement by the state for trailer sales to be tracked.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions, feedback? Bo, and then Scott.
Just positive feedback. I really appreciate how you packaged up all of this, because to Jeremiah's point, I spent a lot of time, maybe a little earlier next time. Just kidding. This is great. But it was a really long document. So this is fantastic. Thank you for doing it. And it's been one of my biggest frustrations about spending taxpayer dollars for any of us to travel is not only communicating what we're going to represent when we travel, and then not getting a summary of what took place when they get back. That is still a frustration of mine. Some of these trips are in the many thousands of dollars. People leave. We have no idea what they're going to communicate on our behalf or on behalf of the community. And getting consensus that we're on board with that, I think is important. And then a nice summary of what took place when folks get back from travel after spending thousands of taxpayer dollars, I think has been a really large frustration of mine. So thank you for this. This is a breath of fresh air.
Scott.
In the past, there's been several people going to vote on these issues at AML, but this year it's only you, right?
Well, you only get every municipality just gets one person, one representative.
There
so.
used to be a collab argument, and the plurality would win on those. I have a question, though, on some of these. I mean, most of them, I agree with you completely, but some of them, you've got support, parentheses, goodwill.
Oh.
And we're not in the rail belt, who gives a hoot?
Well, right. So that's why I think since we don't really give a hoot, or we don't see that impact, supporting this resolution, right, just supports the other kind of municipalities along the way. And there's always, go ahead.
So we constantly ask Interior Alaska
Yeah.
to fund the
Yes.
Alaska Marine Highway System.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
if we allow the we don't give a hoot, we'll
That's
never
true.
get
That is
anything
true.
passed. And so the goodwill things on this, I think, is really important, showing that we're team players, and then we can say, we supported yours, so you can support ours. I mean, that's
Yeah, that's it.
that's one of the I think the dangerous things, since we don't live in one of the main population centers, that we have to play nice on this kind of stuff if we want support later.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for that. Then I will take these. I will take these forward. One more thing about AML too is I think typically in the past the borough mayor has attended the ACOM. Is that it? The Council of Mayors. But also at the same time is the coastal caucus that is going on at the same time. I would like your feedback or direction. I was probably not going to go to the Council of Mayors one and go to the coastal. I can't remember the title, the coastal caucus one. If our memory serves me, the Council of Mayors is mostly dominated by strong mayors, correct? So they're talking about a lot of things that I don't even have any, buy-in anyway. So that's kind of breaking, I think, with tradition. So I just wanted to make sure that was okay with y'all too.
Please.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may
Yes.
interject. Just an FYI, because we have new assembly members also. In the future, if we plan better, you can also sponsor resolutions on behalf of the borough if you'd like to do something like that next year. Just to keep in mind if you have something that you'd like to present to AML. Thank you.
Yes, if you can put that on your wonderful master calendar to remind us maybe in like October next year, to earlier than that, September. Oh, that's right, because the due date is, yeah, early in November, that's true. I like writing resolutions. Okay, all right. Last item on the work session before we get to packet review is review of the proposed revisions to the liquor license code. Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Assembly. This has been a long time coming. We worked on this for about 18 months to 2 years, I think. We've been working on and off with our borough attorney. The last draft that he presented me, he reminded me, was November of last year during the presidential election, and I missed incorporating the suggestions that he made in that last draft. Hence, I sent you a revised resolution with the yellow highlights on the resolution, incorporating the changes that he sent to me last November. So I think it's a very good draft. It defines now what we need to do for renewal, for new and transfer. And also, we do have a proposed process for biannual review of the continued operations of licenses. So I think that's a good process. Our existing code is extremely outdated. It tells us to check with the state troopers on licenses that are within the city. So that's extremely, it's really outdated. So the draft is before you. If you have any questions, you can go to your to the last pages of your packet. I have added the draft 2 at the very end. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Nova. Any questions? Dave?
Not a question, just a thanks. Local government takes a lot of heat for situations that arise when our code is out of date or something comes up that hasn't come up before. And it's usually pretty rare that we can resolve the complaint on the spot. But this is a great example of legitimate concerns that have been brought before us that are now being fixed. So I just wanted to express my appreciation for that and all the work that went into it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, all right.
Is this
Thanks.
ready for prime time? Would you like to see it on the agenda fairly soon? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nova. Okay, let's move on into packet review. Let me bring it up. All right, there we go. First item up is a public hearing for ordinance number FY 2026-12, amending Title II Administration Personnel, Chapter 2.125, Architectural Engineering Review Board, Section 2.125.030, Qualifications. Where's my split screen? There we go. Okay, Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Architectural Engineering and Review Board meetings are regularly attended by the borough's engineering facilities director and the project manager. To ensure consistent participation and enhance the effectiveness of project discussions, it is recommended that these positions be formally designated as ex officio members of the board. This recognition would allow them to actively contribute their technical expertise and insights during the review and deliberation of projects presented to the ARB. In your packet tonight, you're just going to see a very simple addition to 2.125.030, adding the project manager and the engineering facilities director as ex officio members.
Thank you, Amy. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, move on to contracts. Contract number FY 2026-26, Mill Bay Beach Stairs and Picnic Table Replacement with S&S Enterprise doing business as Kodiak Lawn Care. Amy.
Thank you. The existing stair structure at Mill Bay Beach is constructed of wood. Unfortunately, over the years, sections of the stairs have repeatedly been removed or damaged by community members using the wood as firewood. This ongoing issue has required the borough to spend additional funds replacing treads and handrails multiple times. To address this reoccurring problem, staff recommend replacing the current wooden structure with a durable metal stair system. A metal structure would significantly reduce maintenance costs and prevent further damage or loss of materials, although some of our residents will be a little bit cold. Similar vandalism has occurred with the picnic tables at the site. Several have been pulled from the ground and used for fires as well. Even one of the metal tables was burned and is now charred. If the alternate bid is approved, staff recommends replacing 2 of the existing wooden tables that have sustained the most damage. Staff presented the designs to the Architectural Review Board, which were approved by them on July 23rd, 2025. Due to the long lead time of the materials for this project, staff issued the big package this fall instead of waiting for spring. The project is anticipated to be completed on or before May 30th, 2026. Staff issued the ITB for the contract on September 25th, 2025, advertised for the designated 3 weeks, and the bids were due on November 4th. There was a mandatory pre-bid meeting held on October 20th, and there was 1 contractor in attendance. At the bid opening, we received 1 bid package. Following the review of the bid package, staff determined that S&S Enterprise, doing business as Kodiak Lawn Care, to have a complete bid package and is the only bidder, therefore the lowest cost bidder. You'll see in your packet tonight that the base bid is for $97,500 for the stair replacement, and the alt one is for $1,750. That's for each picnic table. So next week we will ask you to vote on the base bid, and then staff recommends 2 picnic tables being replaced. You can go drive by and see exactly which 2 those are. So the total here is a little bit misleading because we're asking for 2 of those alternative 2. So I'll make sure that we have the correct total next week.
All right, thank you. Any questions, discussion? Caroline?
Just thinking about those stairs already being wooden, they're very slippery when it's wet. Is there something in place, I guess, has the contractor expressed how they're going to make it safe when it's wet or icy on metal stairs? I feel like that's a little slipperier.
Yep, the metal that they're going to use is it has holes through it and it has traction, and it's kind of like the stairs going up to the 2nd floor of the high school out there. That the design specs are in there, and while that is not my world, thank you. We did discuss the slipperiness factor. And what the ARB went into great detail on what kind of metal to use and what would be accepted. And yes, that is something we definitely talked about.
Any others? Jeremiah?
Just because I'm worried of something stupid happening if nobody says anything, can you clarify on what type of metals were intended for use on this?
That is in the packet. I read it earlier today. I can go see if
I'm
I
looking
can find
for
it
it.
quick. There is even a question if another kind of metal would be acceptable.
Seems dumb. I'm just hoping we use aluminum. It's steel? I mean, even galvanized, I'm a little on the fence for throwing it right there on the beach. If it's steel, that seems kind of silly.
This is just something that the ARB discussed and approved. I don't know if you want to, those are our technical experts when we ask these kind of questions. And so we can go back and ask for more information if that's what the assembly desires.
I'll do more research in the meantime, but I don't know.
Steve?
With the metal stairs, hot tip galvanized I've seen near the water used, and it usually works very well as long as the right fasteners are used. Usually the problem is more the bolts and the connecting, and if they use regular steel, then that becomes a real problem. The treads themselves, because they don't hold water, everything else seem to last pretty well. I've seen them on the Coast Guard base. You see them on a lot of the emergency stairs. It's a pretty common practice and does seem to last. I'm guessing, yes, there'll be a problem in 20 years, but wooden stairs is a problem. I mean, just about anything you build it with has a life expectancy. Hopefully all the specs are proper for fastening devices, but so I believe that is probably one of the best situations. If it's aluminum, the only way to really do it good would be to weld them into place. But they've designed and put this proposal out this way, so I think it's going to be a good plan.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, all right. Moving on to the next one. Thank you, Amy. Okay, next is a resolution appointing the borough attorney. How is that going, Amy?
It's going well. I just heard back from them this afternoon. There is more red and cross out and blue than I think that we expected. But so what's going to happen is we have a meeting set up on Monday with Scott Brown Erickson and Leslie, our new attorney. They're going to go over their pass downs, what documents one law firm is going to send to the other law firm. There is some conflict language that they need to work out with Scott Brown Erickson. And as soon as we have that, which we're scheduled for Monday afternoon, I'll get that to the assembly right after then. I do have a draft, but it is far from ready. So once we get all the details worked out on Monday, the assembly will have that in advance of Thursday.
Thank you. Any questions for the manager? Okay, moving on. We have two ordinances, and if it's okay, we're just going to do these together. Ordinances 1, accepting and appropriating funds from the 2020 Alaska Pacific Cod Federal Fishery Disaster Relief Distribution, and then accepting and appropriating funds from the 2021 Chignik Salmon Federal Fishery Disaster Relief Distribution. Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In both of these cases, we're going to be getting money that does not have a actual destination. So when we have that coming into the borough, we accept it by ordinance. The last version of the assembly decided that all of our fishery disaster relief monies would go to a fisheries economic development fund. So we will have $156,150.40 from the 2020 Alaska Pacific Cod Federal Fishery Disaster Relief Distribution, and another $41,557.81 from the 2021 Chignik Salmon Federal Fishery Disaster Relief Distribution. Once it goes to that account, we use that account this year in the budget to fund things that UAF asked for in nonprofit funding, classes and scholarships to support fishing-related things. So we do have committees that are dealing with fisheries and working with the city, and so the idea is that economic development fund would allow money to flow towards things that would actually help fisheries instead of just getting thrown into the general fund and pay for electricity. So we're trying to use fishing money for fishing-related items.
Thank you, Amy. And that is, I think we came up with that idea at the Joint Fisheries Work Group, and it'll be good to see more money in there. So this is great. Yeah, Bo.
Yeah, so just an update on somehow that funding has helped our local harvesters. So the Alaska Marine Safety Education Association, AMSI, is the lion's share of marine safety training for our harvesters, and they lost, with the current administration, lost the vast majority of their NIOSH funding for, it was typically offered to our harvesters at no cost, but a lot of that funding went away. So through our appropriation to UAF, through local Sea Grant here, they've been able to continue their scheduling of marine safety training classes for our fishermen. They have to maintain these, and then certainly for their drill conductor courses, skippers have to have it. So we're saving them that cost, and then anyone entering the fishery as crew, these are critical skills that they need to have to be safe. And they've also offered sponsored courses using this funding for crew training, so essential crew skills to operate on the back deck of whether it's fixed gear, trawl gear, all different types of gear types, salmon gear. That's where some of this money has gone to. So it's already starting to put into motion to where it's benefiting our local harvesters, whether they're veterans or folks just entering that line of work. So far so good, it's working.
Yeah, I agree, Bo. If anybody read the most recent economic trends publication that the state does every month, I mean, they identified, fisheries like retraining, training and retraining is of utmost importance right now. And so to have a healthy fund, I think will go a lot towards that too. Any other questions? Okay. Other items. Let's see here. Appointments to the Providence Kodiak Island Medical Center Community Advisory Board. Ms. Sharavlov Nelson, Mr. Twangy, Ms. Paulson, Ms. Demyanoff, Ms. Davidson, and Mr. Roberts. Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Assembly. Per Section 29 of our lease agreement with Providence, it requires that one Assembly member be appointed as a regular voting member, and then also any other appointments to the board need to go before the Assembly for review. So this is your chance to voice your support or your objection to any of the appointees, and we'll relay that over to Providence. Thank you.
Okay. Any feedback on the names that have been put forward for the Providence CAB? Okay, seeing none. These look like good people. And then the final item, declaring at-large seat and the construction business representative seat vacant on the Solid Waste Advisory Board, Ms. Andy Wall and Mr. Doug Hogan. Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Assembly. We have received a couple of resignations on the Solid Waste Advisory Board. We would like to appreciate the board members, outgoing board members, for the time that they've dedicated on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Nova. And we already have, did I see that spreadsheet correctly? We already have a couple of applications in for swap. Discussion, questions? Okay, all right. That'll take us back to the work session agenda. Manager's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chris French, CMIC Root, and I presented at the Rural Leadership Forum. Mayor Griffin attended as well. We shared information about the rural school maintenance, our plans for the next 2 summers. I wrote in your report Planning 2025, but I really meant Plan 2045, the comprehensive plan. And we also, SEMA reviewed the joint KAB Canada trips to the villages to assess with senior and disabled veteran exemption applications. We interviewed 2 people for E&F director this week in the process of making that decision on whether or not we want to make an offer to either one of them. I met with the interim senior facilities manager, Tyler Still, from PKMSC today to go over the discrepancies that were found in the project documentation from last week's regular meeting. He was able to provide us with all those fee proposals that were referenced. If you remember, one of them was $195,000 change in accordance with the fee proposal from October 22nd, 2020, whatever. We'd never seen those, and we got copies of all of those this morning, so we're going to be able to compare those documents. So thanks to Tyler for coming over. I filled out all the beginning required paperwork for Rentalscape. That's our new short-term rental software. Descartes Technologies has set us up with a client success manager. So they are breaking up our data between what's inside of the city limits and what's outside of the city limits, so both the city and the borough can have accurate information on what to expect as far as accommodations, taxes, and how many are operating in our areas. In engineering facilities, we are currently recruiting a director, an environmental specialist, and landfill manager. The offer that we had out for that position was turned down as she took another job. We're looking for leachate treatment plant operators, trainees, anyone who wants to work at the leachate treatment plant. Our trainee that was out there is now a maintenance specialist at the Borough, and Carl, who is running the leachate treatment plant, is scheduled to retire in April. So no pressure. There's tons of people who know how to run that place, right? We have a job offer out to a general laborer, but haven't heard back from them yet. And we're still looking to hire a code enforcement officer as well. If you pay your property taxes outside of your mortgage and you paid your first half due by August 15th, your second half is due by Monday, November 17th, which is this Monday. So if you do pay your property taxes in half, please remember to avoid fees and penalties. It is due by Monday at 5 p.m. In community development, planning and zoning had a work session last night. Their packet review contained a street name change request for Old Harbor. They reviewed draft ordinances and a resolution related to short-term rental uses with specific emphasis on changes to the definitions and related amendments to zoning compliance, permits, zoning districts, and parking requirements. Plan 2045, the website is there in your report if you want to go check out where we're at. But there are 2 workshops being held for the economic development element of the plan. One will be held on December 9th from 10 to 2, and another on December 11th from 6 to 8, right here in the Assembly Chambers. There's also a resident survey, and that stays open until December 31st of this year. In IT, we did some hardware upgrades this week at the landfill, including a new server and upgraded monitoring PCs. They're also helping the clerks host training on Friday for a new way to insert our contracts into Laserfish. And GIS has been working with Coast Guard properties and is continuing to audit data, rectifying missing items, particularly property identification numbers. In assessing, nothing has changed with our 2025 exemptions. We still have 6 that are outstanding. For 2026 exemptions, the village trips begin of Monday next week, and there'll be in-town application help at the senior center on November 19th, December 19th, and January 13th. Business personal property filing forms, as well as senior citizen and disabled veteran applications, are going to be mailed out tomorrow. Anyone that doesn't want to wait for those forms to arrive can come into the assessing offices, fill out, sign, and receive a time-stamped copy of their paperwork beginning Monday, November 17th. If you don't have your form with you, they can print one out for you. All forms and applications are due back to the borough by January 15th. So if you're looking to get a senior or disabled veteran exemption, it needs to be back by January 15th. In engineering facilities, our touch tank hours are regularly Tuesdays from 2 to 4, but over the holidays, we're going to be open the 24th, 25th, and 26th of November, and in December on the 22nd, 23rd, 29th, and 30th. The borough is participating in a holiday food drive. There's a flyer attached for more information. The picture in your packet tonight is a bear trap, and don't be confused by that size. There were 2 bears in there this week. It's attached to they're calling it a culvert trap, and they had it set up in one of the popular places that the bears were going through to get into the landfill on Monday. The trap successfully captured 2 subadult bears. Alaska Department of Fish and Game and the state troopers moved the bears to the Menasha Bay Reservoir, and as far as I know, they're not back yet. Solid waste code and contract updates, there's going to be a draft ordinance presented to that committee at their next meeting, which is going to be held on November 19th at 3 p.m. Our landfill fence repairs were completed. We've released that contractor from the contract, but then over the weekend on Friday, we found out that because bears had been messing with that front gate, some of the electrical equipment got knocked around, and so the fence itself was electrified, so they couldn't get in and out of the landfill as staff without getting zapped. And so we had the contractor come out, and maintenance staff go out on Saturday and try to resolve that so that people could get to work without being electrocuted. On October 29th, we got our community pool. condition survey back that's been emailed out to the Architectural Review Board so they can have it early. It's a long report. Once they meet in December, it's going to be presented to the Assembly as soon as they approve it. There are not any changes on the fuel spool assistance or the KFRC information. If we look at the final page, we'll find out there's been a little bit of a delay in the elevator stuff. We're anticipating parts to get here in mid-December. We thought they would be here mid-November. And then our small projects, we've talked about the stairs, the landfill shack platform. We had an intent to award issued, but then we got a bid protest. We read through the bid protest. I think they were right, so we retracted our intent to award and sent a new intent to award out to the next qualified person. You'll see that on the December 16th and 18th meetings. The Borough Park table replacement, we're going to be, that's not the Mill Bay tables, that's other picnic tables, but we'll be posting that for the 2026 spring-summer project. And I was really excited to tell the Rule Forum the other day that Port Lions is going to happen this summer. So everyone's really excited about that, with Old Harbor painting project happening in the summer of 2027. So we're finally getting to the rural schools, which is wonderful. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the manager? Scott?
I have two questions. Number one, what's the status of the Tyler software?
It is not going as smoothly as we had hoped. So we are currently, both assessing and finance are having to enter certain information into Harris and Tyler. The assessing side seems to be working fairly well. The finance side is where we're having a lot of glitches. And so the finance side needs to reference the assessing side in Harris in order to do what we need to do for taxes. And so assessing is being asked to update in both systems. And so finance is updating in both systems. So we've doubled the work. We're still paying double the price, and we're not seeing a lot of relief. While Tyler is really good in some aspects, we're going backwards in others. Functionality that we had in Harris isn't available in Tyler. And so it has been a controversial process.
And Tyler was sending a representative here. Did they leave?
They
Or
did.
are they coming back?
We had 2 representatives come for the assessing side. One of those poor men gave their phone number to SEMA, which I think he might be regretting. But we contact them a lot. When we send in lists of questions and we're like, okay, we'll have your answers by the end of the week, and we just don't get them, SEMA gets on the phone, and amazingly, we get the answers very, very quickly. The person that came for the finance side was here for a week and worked out the problems we found while she was here. But just like anything, as soon as someone leaves, we find more problems. And so I think they're doing a good job in working with us. We do things, no municipality is the exact same as any other municipality. The big problem on the finance side right now is computing penalties and fees. And so until we can get that figured out, we're not able to switch over to Tyler. And also, I think at 4 p.m., everything is coming in on the next day. So when we're trying to rectify our bank statements, if it's between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., it's one day. But if it's from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., it's hitting the next day. But that's not the way our deposits. That's a really long answer. We're having some issues.
Thank you. I have one more question. Oftentimes when you move animals to a different location from where they were, they go back. Is that a threat with the bears that you dumped at the reservoir?
It's interesting that you said dumped. Yes, I absolutely think that's going to be an issue. I do not think that was far enough away. If you remember a few years ago, we had fantastic pictures in town of a mom with 3 cubs, and everyone was like, oh, they're so cute, and they're sleeping in my backyard, and bed and breakfast became famous. They're like, look, bears in my backyard. We moved those to a fog neck, and they came back. So I don't think Menashka Reservoir is going to be far enough away.
No, okay.
I do think we're going to have issues. And so I guess tangentially that the issue of bears and that bear management plan, this is going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to have for quite some time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Jeremiah?
What is, other than all the conservationists that are super in love with seeing the bears around town, what is the deterrence or the hindrance in just putting those bears down since we already know what's going to happen?
So the two groups that we're working with are DEC, who says, hey, Borough, you're baiting bears, knock it off. And then the other group, the one that's approving all of our repairs and helping us capture bears, is Alaska Department of Fish and Game. It's like the left hand's not quite talking to the right hand. So at all costs, keep bears out. At all costs, do not hurt bears. So if we really wanted to keep bears out, we could get 2 miles of razor wire and put it around the top of our fence, and that's going, at the bottom of the fence or top of, like, we could keep bears out, but we would hurt them. And so our directive is to keep bears out of the landfill, but we can't hurt a bear. And so those two kind of opposing ideologies are kind of hitting each other a little bit. I have expressed concern that I'm worried if we displace the bears that were born there, and that's the only food source they've ever known, and put them on the outside, that we're going to have instant problems. But that's not guaranteed, and a bear biologist is not going to say, okay, you're right, let's put him down. Like, that's not in their lexicon. Like, they cannot, that's against everything that they do. And so, hopefully, as we work with the Department of Environmental Conservation and make this bear management plan, we'll be able to address some of those issues. We do have one huge bear, I told you about it last week, that must have a den somewhere on there because we continue to see the bear, but we can't find him on thermal drone, but we know he's there. Or she, sorry, I'm not sure. Laura, yeah. So, you're right. Some of the people are like, these are the problem bears. These are the ones that are not afraid of equipment. These are the bears that we cannot haze, that are unaffected. Like, here's a solution. But the people who would follow through on that solution aren't there yet.
Bo.
I can lightly expand on that because it's not my place, but I do understand that it's a process, so we can't just make an assumption. We meaning, well, I won't even say we. The wildlife biologists at the Department of Fish and Game cannot make assumptions to do a lethal take of any bear. The only exceptions is if there's a bear that's attacking someone or within certain proximities of a school. But as far as this scenario, it's going to be iterative. So step one, relocate. Bears come back. They identify the bears again. They can do other attempts, hazing, relocate. So it's a process. But we can't, the department cannot just make assumptions and then do a lethal take that way. They have to follow procedure. So it's their hands are tied to an extent.
Dave.
Forgive the snark of my question, but bear season's open. Is there anything to preclude our public from legally taking bears outside the fence?
Outside the fence is one story, inside the fence is the other. We have actual staff members who have said hello, so that it's borough land, but if you have the right tag, just don't go inside the fence and do it, please.
Jeremiah.
I'm holding a bear tag right now. Is there anything we can do? This just seems like such a simple solution. It goes to the end of the month. I keep my bear tag for incidentals. I don't want to deal with one. Is there some sort of incentive we can just give to the general public to take bears in that area? It just seems like, we've got 3 weeks, and what a simple solution.
I understand why you think that's a simple solution, but we won't even allow people to salvage because of the liability. So I can't imagine the liability behind letting people take bears.
Not in, outside the fence.
Well, outside the fence, that's just like doing it on any other borough land.
I'm just wondering if we can incentivize it. Not just thinking off the top of my head.
Java Flats cookie coins.
This seems like a topic a lot of us are interested in. Do we feel this warrants a work session discussion, or? Dave, yeah.
After we get the bear plan submitted, that maybe we do a work session
Okay.
discussion on it?
Okay. Bo?
And the wildlife biologists are always open to coming and having that chat with us. I think that the amount of questions we have that we don't have the answers for, I think it would be a great idea to invite them out for that work session topic.
Okay. So I'd like that when the plan is out, then we can put something together. Okay, clerk's comments.
Thank
Clerk's,
you.
there, sorry, my mic wasn't on. Thank you, Amy. Clerk's comments, please.
Okay, so with the recent appointments of assembly members to the different boards and committees and commissions, I highly suggest that you subscribe to e-updates. So the way you would go about that is go to our Kodiak Island Borough website and then go to Borough Meetings and then go to subscribe to e-updates right there. And click the different boards and committees that you were appointed to and enter your email at the very bottom and then subscribe. That's one way of you getting notified of upcoming meetings for the boards that you were appointed to. So for the Kodiak College Council, the school district boards, and the hospital advisory board, the staff members from those organizations will contact you directly. Okay, so we are still doing the coffee with the clerks. We did our third one on November 5th, and the training emphasized the importance of taking meeting minutes based on Robert's rules.
Is everybody getting sick?
Oh, no. So we also did training on the responsibilities of clerks and secretaries during board meetings. Our next meeting is scheduled in January following the holidays, where we will further explore the roles of clerks and secretaries in board meetings. I think cross-training, peer-to-peer training is very valuable here in the borough, so we like doing those. So talking about going to training and bringing something back, in May I attended the training, a laserfish training. One of the sessions I participated in was centered around the creation of electronic forms that could be developed internally to enhance our archiving efficiency. So thanks to Mitchell in the IT department who helped us design a form, and he was able to develop it also for us. We are now prepared to launch the form, and we will conduct a training session for the staff members tomorrow, enabling us to begin electronic archiving instead of relying on paper. This transition will lead to a significantly more efficient process, reducing both manpower and the need for physical copies. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. That's just the start, and then we'll start delving into other, like our, we're thinking about our boards and committees applications. So we'll do those also electronically, and they will be filed automatically instead of us, and they will receive automatic responses when they enter in their application, instead of the clerk's office responding to every application that we get by email. So next would be liquor and marijuana licenses. You have seen the code revision, so we're excited about that. We have completed our assessment of the ongoing operations of liquor licenses that are entering their second year of operation. The two that particularly caught our attention are as follows: the Southern Glazers of Alaska. The KIB Assembly objected to the renewal of this license, and I cited the reasons in my report. That is going before the ABC board on November 25th. There's going to be a hearing on that. And then the El Chicano Mexican restaurant, you voiced non-objection to that one. So there's still a discrepancy on the address on that one. They're moving from one location to another. So with that review, I'm not sure if there's an interest from the Assembly to pursue protesting the biannual. I think they're being taken care of right now with the November 25th hearing for the Southern Glazers. And you voiced non-objection to the El Chicanos. It would be, I think, contradicting if you then turn around and then voiced objection to the biannual one. So I'm not sure. Let me know if you want to head in a different direction, if you want to object to either one of those. Please let me know. And then our annual boards and committees appointments. So in October, we began the recruitment process for the open positions on various boards, committees, and commissions. We advertised in the Kodiak Daily Mirror, sent letters to the incumbents, and followed up with emails. The following are the open seats and the number of applicants as of today. The deadline for application is tomorrow at 5 p.m. So on the Architectural Review Board, we have 2 seats that are open. We have one that said that he's not going to be reapplying, and we haven't had any applications received. For the Board of Equalization, we have 1 regular seat that's open and 1 alternate. 1 regular member is not going to reapply, and we haven't received any other applications. Mission Lake Tide Gate, we have 2 seats, and we have 3 applications on that one, so that's really good. Parks and Rec, we have 2 seats that are going to be expiring at the end of the year, and we haven't received any applications yet. For the Solid Waste Advisory Board, we have 3 at-large seats, and we have 2 applications. So please, if you know of anyone that could serve on our boards and committees, just let them know to contact the clerk's office. Thank you. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Nova. Any questions for Nova? Okay, all right. Moving on to Assembly members' comments. We'll start down there with Caroline.
No comment. Thank you.
Bo.
It's exciting that we have some positive momentum growing in a lot of different areas, and thinking about the Y coming on board. I think they went from just a small handful to 12 plus seemingly within weeks, or maybe even more than that now. And so that's exciting to hear, and that they're going to expand to other schools, and now potential expansion for childcare. I feel like the missing piece for spurring growth in our community and economic development is housing availability. So hopefully we can get some land available for auction for folks who are looking for, I'm going to get away from saying affordable, for entry-level housing. We have low-income housing available already in the community. That's pretty plentiful, but we need entry-level housing for families and folks wanting to move here and stay here long-term. So hopefully we can get some land going soon and really get things moving.
Thanks, Bo. Steve.
I'll just say no comment. It was a good meeting.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Scott.
No comment.
All right. Dave.
Yeah, appreciate the robust conversation tonight. I thought it was a lot of good discussion. I will be out next week for Pacific Marine Expos for work, so I would request an excused absence from the Assembly for that if my fellow Assembly members agree.
Hey, Jeremiah.
Great conversation with everybody tonight. I like the way this group works together. I like the variance in viewpoints. And I intend to keep hammering home this North Star lease rate. Sounds like at least half of you don't want it to go up at all. I would like to see that go up to $1.70 a foot. Dave brought up the comparison that the Red Cross lease is at $120 and that they're also a nonprofit and that we should treat them similarly. But I countered him with saying that Red Cross building is not even generally comparable in any way, shape, or form to the North Star building whatsoever. So I think bumping it up 50 cents is still being very nice to the organization and helps us out a lot.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Up next are mayor's comments. First, Assemblymember Woods, hope if you're listening, get better soon. Congrats on the bear, but sorry about the leg. I don't know how much I can say without violating HIPAA. It's probably fine. So last weekend, I intended to go up to the Special Olympics tournament. The flight was canceled first by ASH and then by the FAA, so I was not able to attend, but they won a lot of medals, including my daughter, who won a gold medal for her team. And then just a couple of weeks prior to that, Cindy Micka, the school superintendent, and Andy Conway, they got a really special award. They got like the Special Olympics Alaska like Coaches of the Year or Organizers of the Year. And that's huge. So I'm going to try and think of some way that we can work on a way to recognize them. What they've done with Special Olympics just over the past 2 years since, the COVID lockdowns has been tremendous. The number of activities that have grown, the number of participants that have grown, it's a remarkable organization now. I'm also the treasurer, but that's something else that Cindy and Andy do is just remarkable. So we have like legit the best Special Olympics organization in the state right now, and so I think we should work on a way to recognize them for that leadership. Yes, I attended just a short portion of the Rural Leadership Forum yesterday, and I will be going longer tomorrow. I've been going on and off since 2007, and if you can attend, we can find a way for assembly members to attend. But it's a really great example of watching how leadership is shared, and it's a really cool thing to watch. Nova mentioned all the meetings that are coming up next week. I'm going to try to go to as many as I can, just to introduce myself and to listen. We have a SWAMC meeting also on Thursday that I'll be attending. I will also be meeting with Chris French in the Community Development Department soon to get a grasp on where we are with lands. Because of holidays and my travel and some other family things, we're probably going to shoot for an early January meeting for the Lands Committee. We just have to generate an agenda. I did have to cancel and postpone some things this week because my father-in-law, Bill Oliver, passed away a few days ago. And you might remember him. He gave the presentations for the senior citizens of Kodiak for several years. And he lived a life of service. He was a board member on the Kodiak Island Borough School District. He was a board member in Haines. He was also on the Borough Assembly in Haines. He's on the Board of Forestry. He was the board president of the Senior Citizens of Kodiak. He was on the vestry at St. James, the Fisherman Church. He was a Little League coach. He was a lovely man. He was very curious about his work, and he listened a lot. Along with my wife, he's the one who encouraged me to initially apply for an assembly seat. And then when I lost, he encouraged me to apply again, and I did. And then he encouraged me to run, and I did. And then he encouraged me to run for mayor, and I did. And last week at breakfast, I made a joke about running for governor, and he said no. He said, "You don't have any name recognition, Jared." So he wanted Otmaloy paved. He wanted to sell the hospital. He wanted schools funded and fixed. He wanted the auditorium taken care of. So I just want to say thanks to the Providence ER team, their docs and their staff, especially Dr. Everett. His calm manner ushered our family into a really tough decision, but it was also at the same time an easy decision, if that makes sense. I also want to say thanks to Bayside EMT and their crew who came when we needed them, and Chief Ellis, especially his calm, professional manner made us feel peaceful at the start of what was going to be a very difficult day. His last words to me were to take care of Susan, his wife, and he told me, thank you for joining the family, and he said, I love you. And so I just want to thank Bill for taking his 40 years here and helping build this community, and that we promise to carry on his work. And with that, I will adjourn the work session. Thank you.